everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a final hot take of the evening. Ready, Little Joan? All right, we're going to go through some articles and see where we are in terms of the politics, in terms of Washington. I don't know, try to get a gauge on DC tonight. It's tough, always is tough. But here are a couple of news stories that caught my eye. PRC declares independence means war as U.S. sends carrier strike group into the South China Sea in display of unity with Taiwan. The Chinese want Taiwan back. Are they willing to start a war on it? The question is, what's Biden willing to do? Biden looks weak. And who knows what the Chinese think of him if he's willing to take a bribe. Now, it could go the other way. It could be that Biden is so gung-ho to prove that he's not in the pocket of the Chinese that he would be willing to go to war with them. And that would be very, very bad for a lot of reasons. The least of which, or the worst of which, would be that a lot of people could die. It could spiral out of control into a full-blown world war. Who the heck knows where the Russians would end up on which side? They'd probably sit it out and wait for us to destroy each other because that would greatly benefit them. But, there's also North Korea. What would the North Koreans do? What would the Chinese do to the Japanese and the South Koreans who are just in their backyard and are allies? So, a war with China would break us financially, I think. Would absolutely destroy us. So Biden would be a fool to do it. But of course, it would probably break the Chinese as well. The difference being is the Chinese could probably recover faster from it, depending on how it went. If it was just a war, if it didn't actually reach the United States, then it could be, we just blow up a lot of buildings in China and it just costs us a lot of money and it just ruins our economy. It ruins China's too, but at the end, we're both wrecked and then the Russians just waltz in and kind of run the show from now on. I don't know. It's not a good sign, though. And I'm not super confident that Joe Bumbling Biden is in charge. The weakest guy I've ever seen in the presidency. Even when Reagan was starting to lose it towards the end, he at least acted stronger. Biden doesn't even put on a good front. He looks like he barely knows where he is half the time. I was thinking today, man, if he got the beer virus, he'd be in trouble. He looks frail. Trump got it and it ran its course. He got treated. Biden got it. I don't know if he'd make it. Jonathan Turley, Pelosi delivering big headache to the Senate. The problem is not what she sent, but what she did not send. What was not sent, but what was not. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi giving the senators a big headache with her decision to hold a snap impeachment of the president without witnesses or evidence. The problem, according to constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley, is that she's delivered to them an article of impeachment with no evidence to back it up. The problem is not what she sent to the Senate, but what was not. There was no record. For the first time in history, the House of Representatives sent an article of impeachment to the Senate without any hearing, any testimony, any response from the president. Not a word. It just sent a poorly crafted article of impeachment, like a conclusion in search of a proof, he explained in a column on his website. Trump has been charged with incitement to insurrection for statements he made at a rally after the U.S. Capitol was breached on January 6. Constitutional scholars contend Trump's statements were protected by the First Amendment, and some who have been charged in the riot are accused of planning it weeks in advance. There's no way. If they convict Trump on this, the system's just broken as hell. And I don't think there's any way they're going to get 17 Republicans to flip. No way. So this is a giant waste of time designed to keep Trump away and embattled, it also gives the Democrats an enemy to rally against. And speaking of Trump's impeachment, 5 of Trump's impeachment lawyers leave defense team 9 days before Senate trial. This is not as big a deal as some are reporting. Trump fires people all the time. He's gotten rid of 2 lawyers, 2 big lawyers, and the other 3 lawyers are like, I think they work for the other 2. So, Trump is never short on lawyers, that's for sure. I'm sure people are lining up around the block to represent him if they can. This is a big feather in the cap of any lawyer. So I wouldn't worry that some lawyers have bowed out. I'm sure Trump just fired them because they weren't listening to him. He, hey, the guy knows what he's doing. He's proven it to me. And here's Limbaugh. Establishment GOP willing to fade into oblivion to end MAGA. All-consuming hatred for Trump takes precedence over everything. Well, that pretty much describes the Democrats at this point. Establishment Republicans are willing to fade into oblivion for an entire generation to get rid of Donald Trump and his populist MAGA movement, says talk radio host Rush Limbaugh. I think they are, but I think it's the establishment that's fading. The end game is the destruction of the entire MAGA movement, even if it means the Republican Party is adrift in the wilderness for 30 years. I don't think there'll be a Republican Party without MAGA. It is MAGA. It's the hierarchy you just need to get rid of at this point. We're going to get rid of MAGA. It's going to have nothing to do with the Republican Party going forward. That's the battle within the Republican Party. The Republican Party has its own establishment types. They have members that are as pro-deep state as the Democrats are, he told his listeners on Friday. Yeah, I could see that. And he points to George W. or H.W. Bush, who kind of undid some of Reagan's things, but it was kind of not the same with Reagan. Most people liked Reagan's policies, the ones he undid, he sort of quietly did them. They weren't popular, and Reagan wasn't really that much of a populist. He was popular, but I wouldn't call him a populist. Maybe a few of his policies, but not a lot. Not like Trump is. Trump is beloved by his supporters. Absolutely beloved. He pointed out there are nearly 75 million people who voted for Trump. That's a political party right there, my man. That's a political party, and it's got to be dealt with. If you are part of the Washington establishment, the 75 million that voted for MAGA, that voted for Trump, we can't have that. So not only do you have to take out Trump, you have to destroy his agenda at the same time. You can't let somebody else pick up the mantle, he said. Establishment Republicans are trying to attach themselves to conservatism when it's expedient. But they never convert to conservatism. They do their best to make you think they are, but they don't, and they are. It's true. John McCain, perfect example. He wasn't really conservative. He just kind of played at it. Jeff Flake, another Arizona senator, same thing. And tons of examples, like that guy from Oklahoma, Lisa Murkowski. I mean, these guys are rhinos, and there's so many of them. And where are the dinos? Where are the Dems who are secretly Republicans? So I guess they're not around anymore. I'm going to put you over here, John. Finish this up. Political reporter. Trump base is getting stronger. Since he left office, impeachment would only empower him. Absolutely. I think there's a huge disconnect between Washington and the rest of the country. Absolutely. This is like you're picking on our guy. You can't leave him alone. It just makes him, he's like Obi-Wan. Strike me down and I shall become stronger than you could possibly imagine. Go to sleep, Joan. I'm going to finish this. Trump is going to be protected by his supporters because he fought for them. Look, you can keep pointing to the last 2 weeks in office, but he had a pretty great run. Yeah, that last 2 weeks wasn't great. He made a mistake. Not really a mistake. He just, I don't know what he did. I don't know what his plan was. Maybe this was the plan. Maybe he, you know, maybe he just thought it would work. Maybe he thought Pence would get nervous and help him out. Maybe he's just mad at these people. Maybe he just never expected people to riot. Whatever. But you can't argue with all the stuff Trump did during his time in office. I mean, it was an amazing run. So people still remember, and you can keep trying to stamp that out all you want, but people who got jobs, people who realized that, oh, hey, if you build the wall and slow down immigration to this country, that wages actually go up because, there's tons of jobs everywhere. Yeah. So they're not going to forget that. The genie is out. Okay. If the Democrats think they could sustain this lockdown forever and ever, well, good luck with that, because all it's going to do is cause more crime and more corruption. And when the wheel turns and the Democrats are on the other end, it's going to be bad. There's not going to be anybody left who will defend you guys. Ilhan Omar, if GOP won't remove dangerous and violent Marjorie Taylor Greene, then we must do it. I don't know what you think you can do to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. You could keep going at her. You're just going to make her more popular too. Do you guys understand making people a martyr to the cause? I mean, it's not enough that you people have the House, the Senate, the presidency. You have to go after individual members now. Is that the plan? Doesn't seem like a very good plan. People want you to do the stuff you promised, okay? And you're not doing it. And that's not going to make people happy. They're not going to be very happy when you turn around in 2 years and say, oh, yeah, we're going to do all that stuff for you. It's just those darn Republicans. You can't say that in 2 years. You can't. You run the House and Senate. You should be passing legislation. Instead, you're letting Bumbling Joe rubber stamp everything. All that stuff could be overturned like that, and probably will be when Trump gets his second term. Republicans need to suffer, according to Drake Professor. Triggers free speech debate with hateful tweets against men, conservatives. This is the kind of people, this is Jonathan Turley again. This is the kind of people the Democrats have encouraged and created. And they have, radicalized them. Stop this video. There's a free speech debate at Drake University over hateful and vulgar tweets from Associate English Professor Beth Younger, who called for Republicans to suffer. The solution to such hate speech is more and better speech. I would rather we denounce such speech than censor it. And here's a very appropriate political cartoon where the college person is beating someone with a bloody sign that says tolerance. Beth Younger tweeted on October 26th that, quote, I was just pondering how much hatred I feel towards all the Republican a-holes. They need to suffer. This is a college professor. You should have more dignity than to even be on Twitter, quite frankly. Younger also declared that, quote, all quote, men are trash, and sent a message to a U.S. Senator Josh Hawley on January 7th that stated, F you piece of S. She also attacked Melania Trump and called Secretary Mike Pompeo an effing moron and traitor. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're some rando who works in an office, nobody cares. But you are a college professor. And now you're only an associate professor, but you are supposed to be molding young minds. Who the heck wants to have their mind molded by someone who's this hyperbolic and hysterical over, even if you agree with all her outburst, I assume you understand that if you don't like Republicans, this is not the way to address a rival political party. not a college professor. You're supposed to do smart things, like, I don't know, start a petition or run for office or, you know, come up with an article exposing all these hateful people that you don't like. Not just like rant on the internet for everybody to see. It's extremely undignified. Drake University Statement of Principles declares that freedom of thought and freedom of expression are central to our educational mission. Well, good. Good. I mean, I wouldn't want to censor her, but I certainly think that the college might have a different view if this was going towards another political party. So if she was saying this about Democrats, I kind of think people would be up in arms, and then the college would suddenly have something to say. So what I think the college should do is say to her, not that you can't say that, but that you're an associate professor and that you, in some part, represent the college, and we don't want you tweeting obscenities and all this hyperbolic nonsense. So I would encourage her if I was the college. I wouldn't censor her, but I might have some kind of, there might be some sort of clause in her contract that says that her behavior might, be grounds for her removal. So, Younger's tweets raise serious questions over sexist and political intolerance. However, there are no allegations that she has engaged in discriminatory or hateful conduct in classes. The question is whether universities would maintain such a position in favor of free speech if the statements targeted other groups, like a male professor saying the same thing about women. No, they wouldn't. They do not believe that the universities would show equal tolerance for criticism, let alone hateful attacks of other groups. Certainly many liberal faculty students have not shown the same tolerance. Yeah, I would say that no, you don't censor her, but that the college should at least have a talk with her and say, this is unacceptable behavior. If this continues, we may have to reprimand you or, ask that you don't tweet anymore. But who knows? Who knows? Rules for thee, but not for thee. And finally, the article says there's a palpable sense of fear amongst any conservative and libertarian faculty and students that they cannot express themselves on campus or in class without being ostracized or even subjected to retaliatory measures. This is the world we're living in now. This is the politics. You can say the most hateful, hurtful things about anybody who's not on the left. You could call them all these horrible things, but you can't do that vice versa. I can't even say certain things on YouTube. I just can't say them. So, this cannot stand. And our discussion going back and forth, this kind of double standard will eventually come to bite the left in the butt, to the point at which they will destroy the Democrats and people on, like, everything associated with the left will be no. People will just go automatically, reflexively go, no. Oh, I'm a Democrat. I got this great idea, that people should be, no. But you haven't even heard what, no. That's what people will say eventually. Because their brand will be so destroyed. And it's close to that way now. I certainly wouldn't vote for a Democrat. Not anymore. And I was a Democrat for years. Voted for Democrats for years. Not anymore. You couldn't pay me to vote for them. So, unless the Democrats can have the most secure elections ever, forever, if you know what I mean, honk, honk, wink, wink, I don't think they stand a chance. I think once they're out, they'll be in the weeds for a long, long time. Now, the Republicans might destroy themselves, like Rush Limbaugh said, if MAGA loses, But I don't see any way that MAGA's going to lose. I really don't. Because even if they manage to keep Trump from running again, or even if they keep him out of office in 2024, they're not going to destroy the movement. It's too big now. And even, what's happening in the stock market, they're connecting to Trump. They don't really have any direct evidence, but the fact that the establishment fought back automatically puts them in the populist camp. Yeah. So, anyhow, that's it for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck with the snow. Check out all my links. And, if you get a chance, help me beat the algorithm. Throw this up on social media. And we'll see you tomorrow.